Hello and welcome to another edition of the Talking City podcast with myself, Alex James, and Chief City writer Simon Bajkowski alongside me in our new studio, or newish studio, I should say now. And I think we've been scratching our heads a little bit. What can we continue these podcasts twice a week? What should we talk about? How can we go about it with no football whatsoever? And
yes,
you've put your thinking cap on, and was it officially the end of the era this week?
Officially the end, yeah. Well, I mean, it was a discussion that we had, wasn't it? We were thinking about discussing the best.
Yeah, it's not just thrown together.
The best signing of the summer. And then Txiki Begiristain has officially left Manchester City after 13 years. So we thought, why not look back a bit at his time? Because I don't think people maybe appreciate how important he's been at the football club, but also look at his kind of best signings.
And is it fair to say the best signing isn't a player?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think yeah. I think if you were looking at his best signings, Pep Guardiola would be number one. Txiki Begiristain was, the main or a major reason in Pep signing, and even more importantly, has been sort of key in keeping him here again and again and again. There was a nice little, because the expectation was, and again, I feel like I've plugged my book second time in a week, but as soon as a book comes out, you're like, oh God, like that's not right anymore. That's not right anymore. And I think in the book, it sort of says about how Txiki will stay beyond Pep. And then that's not happened. And then Txiki came out this week and said in a clip to Pep, he said, I said to Ferran Soriano, I'll sort out your replacement. And then when you renewed again, I thought, no, I can't do any more. I was like, oh, good, that covers me. But yeah, he was, important in keeping Guardiola here for so long, and longer than anyone, even Txiki thought would be here for. So an immense kind of power.
And I think he spoke about it, or Pep spoke about it when he renewed. He's been a sounding board. He's someone who's calm, collected. They have a cup of coffee, don't they?
They have a cup of coffee every morning, and Txiki is the one who kind of sets Pep straight, and Pep comes in with like, oh, this is bothering me, and this is bothering. Txiki's like, nope, sit down, have a coffee, all will be fine. But also kind of as calm as he is, and if you speak to agents and you speak to players, like he has been kind of the person to sell them City, but also then like continue those relationships. And it's amazing, these people who, whether they think they're the most important person in the room or not, he treats everyone as the most important person in the room. And so he's just built up this immense network and relationships across the world that means his reputation is like unbelievably good.
And I think that's the most impressive facet of it, is it's the longevity. It's not too difficult to sell City in the last 2 or 3 years.
No.
13 years ago, different beast.
Yeah, but also I think it's a really interesting part of Manchester City's history that also gets overlooked, whereby so the summer of 2012, they just won the Premier League for the first time ever. Roberto Mancini's at the height of his power, and he has a series of very public standoffs with Brian Marwood, who is sporting director, which nobody really knew what a sporting director was or thought they were important. And Roberto Mancini made this pitch to be more like Fergie, because Sir Alex Ferguson won everything, and he won everything being like the autocrat at the top, making all the decisions. And Roberto Mancini was like, why do I have to listen to what someone else thinks on transfers? I should be in charge of it. And the 2012 summer was disastrous for signings. They wanted, like De Rossi and Eden Hazard and people like that, and they ended up with Scott Sinclair and Jack Rodwell and that caliber of signing. And then Brian Marwood has kind of moved away from his position at the end of the window, which could be seen as like a big win for Roberto Mancini. But no, Txiki Begiristain comes in at the end of that summer, and that is the sign that the club is saying, we are moving to a sporting director model, guys. Like, we're not being like in the cult of the manager here. This is the model that we're going to pursue. And I think City really stole the march on every club going. You see, like, United now trying to like starting to put clauses into deals for youngsters and things like that. Well, City have been doing it for so long, and making and like even Liverpool making huge sales on players this summer. Like I think I read this is the most they've made in a window since the Coutinho window, and the Coutinho was all one player.
Yeah.
So like City again, how can City spend so much over years and years and years? Well, they've sold hundreds of millions of pounds and do so kind of every year. And what he has been able to achieve is quite extraordinary.
And obviously bringing Pep in, then, as you said, that's a key. That relationship already existed. Pep ready for the opportunity at City, match made in heaven a little bit. That then opens the door to everything we've seen over the last 10, 12, 13 years, and then the players, a few of which we'll touch up on now. But so, I mean, you knocked a sort of half a dozen names together to me earlier, and that was like, it would be difficult to pick one out of the sort of 4 or 5. And there was 3 or 4 that probably weren't in that little list that you could put in there as kind of instrumental players.
I think Fernandinho stands out as one just because he was the first summer, and you know he spent nearly a decade at City, but was such an influential player and such an influential part of sort of carrying the team forward, both before Pep arrived, but then also through the first 6 years of Pep. You know, he's kind of everything you want in a captain, and the fans took to him so quickly. And there was pressure in 2013 to get it right because 2012 had been terrible.
Yeah.
And not only kind of, not only Fernandinho that summer, but also sacking Mancini and getting Manuel Pellegrini right. You know, they tried to get Pep then and they couldn't. So, but Pellegrini came in and won the league with like 100 plus goals, and it was an amazing first year, like as good a first year as you could.
Yeah, you could wish for it.
Yeah. So that first summer was amazing. There weren't all sort of triumphs, you know. You'd sort of like the Mangala and Wilfred Bonney and things like that. But as soon as you get to 2015, really, like the year before Pep arrives, it's a steady stream of hits and like huge hits.
And so there's De Bruyne.
De Bruyne and Sterling were that year.
And Sterling, yeah.
So they paid just over 100 million for those two. And remember, Liverpool were laughing their socks off that they got 49 million for Sterling, and Sterling turned into such a prolific goal scorer for someone who, you know, has his issues in front of goal, but such an intelligent player and such an important part of the success. De Bruyne, what more can you say about De Bruyne? But like, you know, beating PSG and Bayern to his signature when Pep was managing Bayern at the time as well, and the 50 million reject that accompanied him, and just like, that will go down as one of the best signings in Premier League history and things like that. Yeah,
for me, I think it's hard to argue against De Bruyne in terms of a player.
Yeah,
you put Pep in a separate conversation, but in terms of a player, it's hard to argue against De Bruyne being the most influential signing of the Begiristain era. I think
so, but I think kind of what he also did was kind of set City's principles and bring them down, because they had a few years initially after the takeover of being able to spend whatever they like before these financial rules came into force. And we should probably mention the charges, and, you know, still not happened yet. So we may come to look back on things differently, but like as we know it now, Txiki kind of changed the mold from like a club, City have got loads of money, so they'll pay whatever. A bit like kind of what United get now, the United tax, because everyone says, they're rubbish at negotiating and they've got loads of money, so
we'll
make them pay. Whereas City just said no. And some of Begiristain's greatest signings have been as a direct result of saying no and refusing. I remember being in America on the preseason tour in 2018, and like Jorginho had been done. Jorginho had been done all summer. They needed a new midfielder. Jorginho was done with Naples. They were just sorting out the fee. They were haggling over the fee. And then Chelsea just gazumped them for Jorginho and the manager, like a double deal. And Txiki was like, well, I'm not paying more than what we think he's worth. And we're not going to sign anyone else. We're just going to go into the season without that player we need. And, you know, they got 90 points and they won every domestic trophy going. Maybe it would have been better with that player. But then the next year, over that course of that season as well, they do all the legwork to sign Rodri.
Yeah.
And Rodri turns into the first player ever to win the Ballon d'Or. I think alongside De Bruyne, that probably stands out as his kind of magnum opuses.
Yeah, I think the reason I would probably lean towards De Bruyne is because Rodri, I guess there's an argument without Fernandinho. Is there Rodri? Is that the same?
Yeah.
Is that the same level? De Bruyne has done it. I mean, you know, De Bruyne has got the statue. I'm sure Rodri may well have a statue. In fact, it'd be a surprise if he didn't. If in 5 or 6 years he's still at City and he's added further to his sort of medal haul. But those two, you know, De Bruyne and Rodri, they're
enormous. And then also kind of, you know, 2019 company tells them he's off. Huge shoes to fill. Harry Maguire's the obvious choice. Leicester want a large sum. City's sort of what they thought he was worth according to their data was like half of what Leicester were asking for, and they were just like, no. And arguably it cost them the league in 2019-20 because Laporte gets injured and they're not solid enough defensively. Stones and Otamendi are poor together, and they don't win the league, and then they get battered 5-2 at home to Leicester the start of the next season after COVID, and it's like, what is going on? You need to buy someone, and they'd gone after Koulibaly all summer, and they were going after all these different irons in the fire, and then Benfica went out in Champions League qualifying, and they weren't expecting to, and because they went out in Champions League qualifying, that kind of made them more open to selling Ruben Dias and made them more open to selling him for a bit less money. And City went, yeah, we'll have that and we'll go for him. And nobody knew how it would turn out. You couldn't have predicted it would turn out as well as it did. But again, like, what a signing after waiting a year.
And what you can also do there, and the same as you can do with Rodri and Jorginho, very good player. But if you look at what's happened to Jorginho and Rodri since, and the same with Koulibaly and Dias.
Yeah.
You look at it now with the benefit of hindsight, it's like, well, yeah. Why would you try and sign Koulibaly when you could get Dias?
Yeah.
Why would you try and sign?
Yeah.
And that hasn't just happened.
No. And shows that there is luck involved in transfers, but also shows that, you know, those players could have been brilliant at City. We'll never know. But what it did do is like reinforce and strengthen City's reputation in the market for all comers. Like if Napoli wanted to try it on again with anyone else, they didn't try it on with City because they knew where City stood and where their red lines were, and that they were prepared to walk away from deals if it didn't add up. And it was kind of a, you know, just a huge professionalism and a charm that accompanies it. And, you know, all of that goes into the other kind of deal that stands out for City, which is Erling Haaland, which is the only kind of superstar player they've signed. The whole model has been built on up-and-coming talent, but Haaland is all right, he still had and can improve, but like it was incredible, you know, signing ahead of every other club in the world, and that nothing tells you you've arrived at the top of world football than like beating Real Madrid and Bayern Munich and Barcelona and all that accompanies them. But the Haalands were just super, super impressed with Txiki and with the sort of the way City dealt with things.
How obviously Hugo Vana has had 6-7 months, officially in post. Or maybe not quite officially in post, but 6-7 months
around the place
on these shores.
Yes.
What's the sort of view do you get from being inside the club as to how smooth that transition has gone? And now we'll obviously continue with Txiki out of the loop.
Yeah, I think they have similar principles. I think it's kind of interesting that City have signed 2 players now in James Trafford and Sverre Nypan that have kind of come up as opportunities where they haven't been interested, and then they thought, well, you know what, now we will. And they've gone out and got them with precision and speed and all of the sort of cleanness that you associate with
the kind of hallmarks
the Begiristain era. Like, from what people say as well, it like Hugo Vana knows this is his first proper window, and this is, you know, he knows that he'll be judged on this summer. Like, Txiki's only left just now, but like, it's Hugo Vana's window. He'll be judged on the incomings. He will be judged on the outgoings, and he has strict rules about, you know, he has his red lines about how much he thinks players are worth and how much he's willing to let them go for, and, you know, who he wants in the squad and things like that. So I think you will get a lot of continuity, but I think Hugo Vana is very much also kind of his own man, who's built his own relationships, his own way in the game. People talk about him, his character, the same way, in that, like, you know, he's just like impossible not to like. He's a lovely guy, and he's so easy to get along with. But he's also got a very cool head when it comes to negotiations. And also, I would add, Ferran Soriano, hugely important, kind of like behind the scenes, he's the money man, but he's also so important in transfers, both in kind of setting those red lines, but also kind of smoothing everything out and bringing forward making transfers happen, basically.
Do we think Hugo Vana and Pep are morning coffee buddies? Do you think there was a period where the three of them were having morning coffee?
Yeah, well, I mean, they've certainly had a lot of time together. I don't think you will ever have with Hugo Vana and Pep what Txiki had with Pep, because, you know, their relationship goes back to playing together at Barcelona, and you know, Txiki, it sort of, Pep doesn't owe Hugo Vana anything in the way that he did and does Txiki, but he knows that their relationship is key, and, you know, he has asked for a smaller squad, so it's on Hugo Vana to deliver now for the new season and give him the tools that he feels that he needs to be successful again.
And just to sort of come full circle then, so we're saying Begiristain, best acquisition, best signing, Pep.
Yeah.
If you're going to go 1, 2, 3, then are you going De Bruyne, Rodri, Haaland? Fernandinho in there? I know you.
Yeah.
It's not an easy question. And
it's
by
not
all means, let us know in the comments as to what we should be saying.
Yeah, here. Tell us the right answers. I think Pep, De Bruyne, and Rodri would be my top 3.
Yeah, I think you'd struggle to find too many arguments against that.
No,
at this stage as we sit now.
No, but it all depends.
You know, Haaland could go and score 50 goals a season for the next 5 seasons and win 3 Champions Leagues. And
yeah, and it all depends on what you're talking about as well, because like Zinchenko cost 1 million and won a load of stuff and then got sold for 40. So, you know, that is a huge thing in terms of sporting direction, things like that. So there are different things, and I do think it's sad how Sterling's career has kind of nosedived after he was so important for City for so long. But yeah, it is just like a greatest hits sort of. I think he's got a book of all this, like Edison's so important, hugely. We've only just mentioned him. Yeah, he has to be high up there as well.
There we go. Make your own mind up. And as Si says, let us know what the right answer is, because we're not 100% sure. And then we'll be back again next week. And next week we might be touching on the signing so far this summer in much the same way we sort of had this conversation. So do feel free to get involved. And in the meantime, we've got a big kickoff supplement, pull-out souvenir edition, I guess you would call it, which is on sale in all good news agents in the area, which Si's been working hard at over the summer.
Yes.
So if you've, for the price of a coffee, go out and purchase one of those. And as ever, keep up to speed with everything on the MEN and on our online and social media and all the usual platforms. And we will speak to you again soon. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.